These violent delights have violent ends. Westworld is back, and until I am ready to get my video out on the new episode, which will be tomorrow, first, before that, I want to do a video talking about my thoughts on the first season so that when I start doing my episode by episode reviews of the new season, people have the opportunity to have a sense of where I'm coming from. Because I didn't review the first season as it aired. I actually sort of caught up on it a little bit later. So, Westworld is a show I like a lot. I'm an easy sucker for this sort of thing. I like, stories of consciousness, coming to a sense of yourself, a journey of self-discovery. I like stories of machinery and robotics becoming self-aware. I like the themes involved in those kinds of stories. It all just lends itself to stuff that just appeals to me. So I was kind of an easy lay for this show. And it's got a lot of stuff that I like a lot. I think because those themes are things that I just like, and I don't know what else to say besides just I like these themes. I'm probably going to talk mostly about characters here. Now, the two major highlights, for me at any rate, are Maeve, played by Thandie Newton, and William, played by Ed Harris. Now, Ed Harris is one of those actors who I don't think is actually capable of giving a bad performance. I've seen him in bad movies. I've seen him in movies where, according to interviews, he didn't even want to be there. You can't tell. The man puts in good work. He is always good, and he's so good in this. He is so driven and so brutal in his quest for answers. And I mean, he's in a pursuit of a purpose, and his determination and the brutality and the single-mindedness with which he goes about this makes him really compelling to me. And especially since we got the glimpses of him younger and actually sort of understand how it was that he came to this place, without getting like overly deep, because I often feel, I'm gonna say villain. He's not a particularly nice guy. I feel like with characters like that, this often over-explaining them can kind of make them less interesting. I think they gave just enough of an explanation for him, so I like that a lot. Now, Thandie Newton as Maeve. First of all, I really want to share this. She's my partner, Liz. Maeve is her favorite character, to the point that in her mind, that she does not call this show Westworld. She calls it Maeve World. I'm pretty sure in her mind the W is rotated upside down into an M. It's Maeve World. And Maeve is very cool. I mean, Thandie Newton, I hadn't seen her in anything good prior to this. Like, she might have had smaller roles in some things, but the main thing that I saw her in was Mission Impossible 2, which, but she's really good in this, and she's good even when she's in character at the very beginning as Maeve, as the madam of the brothel, and just right from the beginning nails this character, nails the way that she understands people, the way that she interacts with people and manipulates people, and then watching that same behavior allow her to manipulate the scientists and the technicians, and then manipulate other hosts, and manipulate everything to get what she wants, and watching her desires and her drives shift and change in the sense that she's willing to go through. I really enjoy it. I like her relationship with Hector. Is basically they're murder buddies with benefits. That's just fun. And then you've got people like Ford, played by Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins, he is a guy who, he never gives an uninteresting performance or an unengaging performance. He's always captivating to watch. That doesn't always mean he gives a great performance. There are some times, especially more recently, where he kind of seems to just be there for the paycheck. I don't feel that here. I feel like he did have a lot of layers and a lot of nuance. And you really did get the sense of somebody who dedicated their life to something, and then as their life wound down, realized, I built this dream of what I wanted, but it's a lie. It's not what I wanted it to be. What I wanted it to be is wrong. And you feel the weight of that in him and in his performance. And you could have made a show that was about him and about his transition and his coming to that knowledge of himself and what it was he was doing, and then trying to correct it in a very odd way. But it didn't do that. Instead, it's more of a background feature, and that does work as well. Jeffrey Wright as Bernard and Arnold in the flashbacks. He is really good. Again, Liz pointed this out to me. He does confused really well, which it sounds like a backhanded compliment. Like he looks like he never knows what's going on, which is kind of true, but there's an intelligence or an attempt at intelligence at that. So what I mean is through just facial expressions, he can really communicate somebody trying to make sense of something but not able to put all the pieces together. Like you just looking at his face, you can see that the gears are turning, but like there's also a wrench in them, so they're not quite getting there. And I'm going to be really curious to see how things transition with Bernard now that he has a self-awareness of himself and what he is and what's going on. I haven't talked yet about sort of the nominal main character of the show, which is Dolores. I do enjoy she's not my favorite, not by a heavy margin, and I do enjoy Dolores. I enjoy Dolores's journey, and I certainly like where she ended, which is part of what makes me really excited for the new season, because I like murderous Dolores a heck of a lot more than Farmer's Daughter. Let me just say that. But it really is an interesting transition and a journey to go with that character that we get to have over the course of this show. And I do enjoy that. And of course, the show overall indulges in the sort of Nolan-esque time displacement and having a flashback that you don't know is a flashback, and then later on you realize, oh, that was at a different time zone and whatever. And I say Nolan, most people think, Christopher Nolan, the director, but this is Jonathan Nolan, his brother. But they've often been writing partners, and you can tell that they both sort of gravitate, with him being involved in this and Christopher Nolan not being, you can tell that they both kind of gravitate towards similar styles of storytelling. And for the most part, it works. I have basically one major issue with the show itself, and that's the degree of the exploitive elements, because there's a lot of nudity. It's a bit more balanced on gender lines than a lot of HBO shows tend to be. Game of Thrones. But there's probably more of it than is necessary, and also the amount of times and the degree of the sexual exploitation of the hosts by the staff, I feel was a little overdone. And like, this is a more nitpicky thing, but as cool as the visual is of this facility where basically all the walls are clear and all the walls are glass, that made that whole element that people are doing things they're not supposed to be doing really hard to believe. Like, literally, it's not even a matter of somebody coming in the room. If somebody so much as comes on the same floor as you, they can see you from across the building what you're doing. What? So, that was a bit where the aesthetic clashed with the narrative. But even beyond that, which is a bit more nitpicky, as I said, it did feel like it was there a little bit more than was necessary. And I've increasingly, as I've gotten older, I've really started to develop a distaste for more exploitative elements of these kinds of stories. I can swallow it a little bit better than sometimes happens, because at the very least, in this case, that exploitation of them does feed into the themes of the show, themes of personhood, themes of being treated as an object, and whether or not you have agency or whether you're at the whims of other people's desires. So all that, so the exploitation does feed into the themes. I do still think it was done a little bit more than was necessary to make that point. It just kept coming up again and again and again and again. So didn't totally care for that, and I'm hoping that gets toned down a little bit. Seeing how bloody things got at the end of the first season, I'm hoping that like there just won't really be room for that anymore. And then there's one thing that I didn't dislike in the first season, but I'm a little nervous about because it was a really delicate balance, and it could be tricky to hit that sweet spot again, and that is in the discussion of the philosophical elements, because there is a fair amount of talking, usually from characters like Ford, like William, the adult William, not adult, because they're both adult, but old William, Man in Black, Ed Harris, and Jeffrey Wright to a certain extent, usually in the flashbacks as Arnold. There are lots of more philosophical musings and talking about the grander themes outright, taking the subtext and having it be text. And it did work, but it's a really delicate balancing act to pull that off and not have it just be like beating you over the head with the ideas. Like, that's to make a comparison, there are some versions of Ghost in the Shell that I feel lose me with that. Some of the manga did at a few points. There are parts of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which is a show that I love, but like it feels like things grind to a halt so we can talk about all the philosophical stuff that had just been underpinnings up to that point. And it can send things off the rails, and it hasn't yet with this show. But I kind of hope that they ease off the sort of philosophical monologuing a little bit, and just sort of let the characters do what they're going to do, because the characters are interesting and they're fascinating, and we've laid out the themes already. I don't need them, explained to me or detailed any further. So, that's sort of my one lingering concern. But overall, like I enjoy the first season of the show a lot, and I am going to be really excited to see what we get in the next season. So tomorrow I'll have my review up for the first episode of season 2, and then I will be I'll be doing episode by episode reviews, or at least that's the plan. Obviously, I've had a couple of times where that was the plan with other shows and it dropped off. I do think I will stick with this one though. So first season of Westworld. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's all the stuff to do, such as like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter, support me on Patreon, all that fun stuff. Links for all those things and even more that I didn't mention is down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.